this is a really interesting one. Gary McPhee from the Gold Coast wrote to us that he'd heard about Prince Leonard of Hutt River Province, and that's a breakaway micronation in Western Australia. And he was wondering whether anybody else had done the same thing, like secede, and how would you go about it? The first of its kind in Australia, the Hutt River Province, is about 8,000 hectares, roughly the size of Hong Kong, and was started in 1970 by Prince Leonard, a former farmer.
Hutt River Province is a tiny dot on the Australian map, 370 miles north of Perth.
It's fully independent. It's not within the Commonwealth of Australia.
Emperor George's Atlantium is a more recent example.
Atlantium is the world's first global non-territorial state. We were established in 1981, and since that time we've evolved into an organisation that has 1,000 members in 90 countries.
Here's a startling fact. Australia has more micronations per capita than any country in the entire world. In fact, since Hutt River, Australia has had 25 self-proclaimed independent nations going it alone across the country. And as Macquarie University's Judy Lattice points out, there are various models in operation.
There are principalities, that's the main form of micronation in Australia. The Snake Hill Principality is one, and that's where you declare independence but you don't set yourself up as a rival to the monarch, so that you still recognise the Queen, for instance. A lot of them do that. Then there's another model which is a kingdom, and the Gay and Lesbian Kingdom of the Coral Sea is a good example of that in Australia. There's a king, obviously King Dale, so they don't recognise the Queen. Then there is an ecclesiastical state. This is the independent sovereign state of Australia is a good example of that, and they use the model of the Vatican. Don Cameron set that up, and he established a church of love and peace when he was in jail. And then finally, again, it's not a formal secession, is the kind of state that's declared independent on the basis of it being Indigenous land.
In creating the Earl of Phoenix and investing Robert David Pope.
This right to go it alone is a sovereign right that's been established by the United Nations. Atlantium is a self-proclaimed microstate founded in 1981 by 3 Sydney teenagers.
The original motivation for founding Atlantium, I think, came from my parents, who, in response to a complaint that I had communicated to them about the current political situation in Australia, responded foolishly that I should do something about it.
Atlantium has a fully functioning judicial system, elected legislature, flags and insignia, a monetary system and diplomatic representation.
Because Atlantium doesn't deliver services in the way that a traditional government does, we don't charge taxes, and there are no other impositions on our citizens at this time.
You need a pretty strong reason to secede, say denial of justice, where your livelihood and property has been stolen, but the government won't do anything to assist you or protect you. Human rights abuses are also accepted reasons for secession.
I can't stress enough that if anyone is thinking of going down the path of establishing some sort of sovereign entity, it's simply not good enough to whack a sign on the front gate, raise a flag and Bob's your uncle. It's just not going to work that way. You need to have some sort of driving reason, some sort of moral reason or political reason, whatever it is. You have to have a justification for what you're doing, and you have to have a great deal of patience.
Well, I'm starting one. I am, and you could be on my knights. You could be knights. Oh yeah.
I don't want to be a knight.
Don't you?
No. Oh, all right. I want to be a knight.
Well, lucky. Well, we'll let you back in then.
Thank you.
You know, it's my, how do I start Rose
Well,
Thornia?
if you want to know how you start Rose Thornia, goodness me,
The
might have to
kingdom.
work on the
Kingdom
name.
of Rose Thornia.
Okay. Well, first of all, what you have to do is to write a letter to the head of government from which you're seceding.
Consider
That's
it
first
done.
up.
Done.
The letter needs to cover the reasons, give the name and the location of the new country, and the state that you have separated from peacefully. You also have to have proof of a permanent population. You need to be able to demonstrate it's an effective government, where there's a stable political organisation has been formed, and that it's strong enough to defend itself.